Okay, signing day is always exciting. It's obviously changed quite a bit from the first time I was a head coach. I mean, you announced you'd be one signing day and you'd announce 20 to 25 guys. Now we're talking about 34 guys. However, today we only signed two because we had 32 guys already signed early on. So today was a pretty uneventful day, a good day. We signed two guys to get us up to 34. Excited about that. I think our staff, hats off to the staff. They did a really, really good job. You go back a year ago at this time and we were literally still filling the roster. We were signing guys all the way into June, right? And we won't have to do that this year. We still have 5 scholarships we kept in our pocket. We always want to do that, with the spring transfer portal and things that could occur. So you always want to keep a couple back. But for the most part, I mean, we've got, I believe right now we have 93 of our players on campus and we'll have a 105-man roster. So everybody's almost here right now, rocking and rolling, ready to go. So we're excited about that. In this class overall, we signed 13 transfer students, 11 JC students, and 10 high school kids. So it's a pretty good balance. I think one of these deals is as you move forward, when you lose older guys, you got to be able to replace them with some older guys so you can go compete immediately. At the same time, you want to make sure you're building towards the future. So that's where your high school guys come in, your JC guys come in. So, it's hard to go out and sign an entire high school class and be really competitive nowadays. But you definitely need to keep investing in the future. So excited that we did that. In that group that we signed, again, if we go through it, we have 15 defensive guys, 17 offense, 2 special teams. We addressed some needs that we had. Defensively, we brought in 5 defensive ends. Excited about that group. It's a longer group. We bulked them up a little bit. Gabe Peterson, was a really great player here. Bringing him back from Utah State was really beneficial. And then obviously part of recruiting too is, not enough people talk about it, being able to bring Buda Palete back, and fight off the people that were trying to get him to leave. So bringing in this talented defensive end group with a guy like him back's big. The linebacker group, we returned 2 starters, and you had Chance Barron to the group, and then 2 high school kids. Zayden Davis is a local kid from Centennial High School. Excited about him. My brother coaches at Oregon Mountain, and he was at a powerlifting contest the other day. He gave me the numbers that Zayden racked off, so we're really excited about him. He's a good, strong kid. And then Drake Williams from Aldine Davis. I had a great running back at UNLV, Lexington Thomas, and they're from the same high school. So excited about that. Safety group added a lot of length to it, brought in 4 guys there, all junior college guys. Some have 3 years to play, some 2. But that's a group that last year I felt like we struggled with a little bit in the back end, gave up a lot of balls, took the top off quite a bit. So adding some athleticism and length there is a big deal. Brought 1 corner in, Xavion Friedman. And then 2 defensive linemen, so a high school and an older kid. And then offensively, obviously, the biggest thing we need to address was quarterback. We didn't play very well at quarterback last year. I know our guys worked really hard, and we've got some of those guys back. Parker Awad did some good things. He's still a young guy, but bringing in Logan Fife, a guy who started multiple games at Fresno State, a guy that started, obviously 8 games last year at Montana. When you look at his career completion percentage, well over 60%. You look at touchdown to interception ratio, and then again, a guy that just has the experience. He's played on the big stage. He's played in front of some really big teams, and he's been successful doing it. So excited about that. And then Jalen Patterson, he's the guy that, we had to fight some other schools off for, but he's already on campus right now. So watching him go through drills, watching his athleticism and his potential, really excited about that. Another group that, last year, our running back group was pretty darn good. And then obviously with Washington going in the portal, you say, how are you going to replace him, right? Well, you look and you get Dominic Richardson. And Dominic, I mean, you look at what he did at Oklahoma State and Baylor. You look at, 1,700 rushing yards. You look at all the touchdowns he has. I mean, this is a guy that's done it at Oklahoma State. He's done it at Baylor. I think we replaced the productivity right off the bat. So that's really good. And then Adden Stanley from University of Utah, who's, that speed guy, one of those guys who can help you in the passing game. He's got some length to him, so I'm excited about that. So those guys are going to be really good additions. And then, again, we struggled at the receiver spot last year. If you look at the group we brought in, we added a lot of length. A couple 6'5" guys, a couple 6'4", 6'2", 6 foot. We brought in some high school guys, brought in some junior college guys. All of them were extremely productive, with the exception of one of our high school players. Are all here on campus now. So when you watch these guys run around, we look completely different in that room. Tight end, we returned the majority of our guys. We brought in Gavin Harris, from Central Michigan. We've got really great feedback on him, and he looks good so far. And then the area that obviously that we lost some guys. You lost a guy like Shiaz Pete late, which you can't blame him for that. Got paid a lot of money. But we need to replace some guys there. So 7 offensive line we brought in right now. We've got a couple in our back pocket. We'll wait till late spring to see what we need to do once we get through spring ball. Hecklinski, he's already here on campus right now, so it's good having him as a young center. And then you go into the kicker spot. We needed to replace our kicker from last year. And David Barker comes in from Australia. And Braden Sage, who's a long snapper. So I think overall we addressed the needs that we had. We brought some really good players back. Again, you talk about, winning and recruiting. Well, one of the biggest wins I think we had is Seth McGowan. I'll tell you what, there's a team that might have played for the national title that we fended off, and some other schools. So it's really, really good getting him back. Again, getting guys like Buddha back. I mean, there's a lot, AJ, getting those guys back. But then adding this group of guys right here really fires me up. Last year we were kind of, at the end of the day, we're kind of selling some hopes and dreams and stuff that we wanted to get done. I was really proud of the way the guys fought. We're a much more talented group this year. Now you're going to have to put it together in spring. And then you're going to have to, again, weather the storm in that second transfer portal, which I hope disappears next year. And then, get into it. But I'm excited about this class. I think, again, it addressed a lot of needs that we have here at New Mexico State University. They're good guys, hardworking guys. They're an athletic group. So I know our current team and coaches are excited to have these guys coming in. Adding a guy like David Yost as our offensive coordinator, who has been around for a long time, been an OC at, Texas Tech, Missouri, Utah State. I competed against him when I was at UNLV, most recently at FIU. He's a guy who brings a wealth of experience, so I'm excited about that.
Questions? Coach Sanchez, just I know at the end of last year you said that wide receiver group, that's something you guys wanted to build on. Just where does that group where did it rank in terms of priorities when it came to building this team for this upcoming season?
Well, it was big. Quite honestly, Coach Cormier, we sat down, we talked about it going in, and we knew we needed to retool that group. We've got some good players coming back in there, right? Not enough of them, but we needed to have some guys that were more competitive, that would go fight for the ball, had some length, a little bit more speed. You take a guy like Tyler King, who's a Wyoming transfer, and you look what he did. Kick return against North Texas for a touchdown, multiple catches. He's a really productive guy. He's got a lot of speed. He's kind of your TJ Pry type guy, so you add another one to that group right there. And then as you go down the list, you get, Sean Brown, really productive season at Navarro, big 6'3" guy. Brody Malone's a high school kid, but he's 6'5", adds a lot of length. You watch his film, he was really dynamic. Jackson Owens, I actually watched him in person. I went down and watched Riverside City College practice, and watching him go through an entire practice, then going back and looking at the stats and the way he competed and put things up. He was a really, really good player. And then AJ Williams, he's a guy that came from Mary Hardin Simmons. He was one of those, he had an unfortunate situation where his father passed going into his senior year. So things really changed for him as far as his senior recruiting, and he kind of, fell off a little bit. And now you start to see him put it together. He's got 3 years left to go. I'm really excited about that group. I think that group's going to be really competitive and make us a whole lot better.
Tell me, you mentioned something about Seth McGowan having to kind of fend some schools up from there, and he announced he was entering the portal, and almost like the day after that, he announced that he was coming back to New Mexico State. Just tell me about that whole process of when he informed you that he was first entering, when he first told you that he was coming back.
Yeah, it's a lot of these guys, and it's not all of them, but I'll say the one thing, and I'm sure every coach has different stories. Most of our guys don't want to leave. Shiaz, he was here on campus sitting down with us less than 5 days before he ended up, making his decision. He was debating on coming back, and the numbers literally doubled fast overnight. And at that point, it was like, you wish him luck, you give him a hug, and you got to go. The numbers are crazy, but it's good for him. But those two guys, and obviously we end up getting Seth back. It's one of those deals where he never really wanted to go. Tampering's real. There's really no rules or regulations. Everyone just calls your guys, So up to the 11th hour, it was one of those deals where the day before the portal closed, he ended up going in. And we had a long talk that night. Coach Cobb did a really good job of talking to him. And our conversations really weren't about carries. It was about life, about love. It was about relationships. It was about, and at the end of the day, I just wished him luck. I just said, I get it, man. You're in a tough situation, so I wish you luck. Know I care about you, and, we love you here, and we're going to be rooting for you. And sure enough, about 24 hours later, he pulled his name out of the portal and called us all up and said, I want to come back. So obviously we had to step up NIL-wise too. That's a big deal. But nothing to the extent that we were going against. Not even close. So again, that's a guy who I read the article the other day about Coach Huff. Where he is at Southern Miss. And the quarterback ended up going with him. And again, relationships matter, and I think playing time matters, and I think being a focal part of an offense does matter. Now numbers kind of skew things a little bit. So. That's why you gotta coach your guys hard. We gotta love them up too, and then hopefully you win a couple of those battles, and we did with him.
Tell me about the offensive coordinator search that you guys went on. What was, I guess, who were you trying to go after, and what?
We brought 3 different guys in. Won't go through who we did. Brought 3 different guys in throughout. Honestly, some during the season, at the end, and we just wanted to find some. We knew that we needed to make a change there, and we needed to get someone who was a veteran, who'd done it, who'd been experienced, someone who'd been productive in the run game, with quarterbacks. I really wanted to bring in a quarterback coach. We haven't really had one since I've been here. We've done a good job offensively, but we haven't had a true quarterback coach. If you look, he's produced 3 first-round draft picks. He's, again, when I was at UNLV, we were going head-to-head against him when he had Jordan Love at Utah State. And you look at the diversity of that offense, and then, you look how he kind of evolved it when he was at Texas Tech, and then you go way back to, what he was doing when he was at, Missouri. And so he's been around a lot of great coaches. So, again, I just walked out of the offensive staff room right now. He's a great addition.
Quarterback room, you guys brought in, of course, Jalen Patterson. You talked about Logan Five, who's got a lot of experience as well. How do you feel about the QB room as a whole, and do you have an idea on maybe who could be the starter for next season?
Well, again, we're not going to anoint anybody. Obviously, right now, going into spring football, the first snap that we take under center, Logan Fife will be the quarterback. He'll run with the ones right away, but we want these guys all to compete. Jalen Patterson is an extremely athletic kid. He tripped to us. He tripped to some other schools. You watch him, you just put on his film and just watch it for a couple minutes, and you go, wow, okay, his athleticism jumps out on you. He gives you more of a dual threat, deal there. So again, he's a freshman. Him being on campus right now puts him ahead of the curve, which is big. How fast will he grow into it? We don't want to inundate him too much, but we want to make sure we get him ready. And then you get guys like Parker Watt, who he's going into his junior year. You got to let the guy go. Santino Murray, she's back here right now. So we've got some guys with some experience. We got 2 new guys in here I think are going to make us better, and who knows, maybe later on, depending on how spring goes, do you bring another one in?
The running backs, of course, you guys got Seth back. Dominic brings a lot of experience from multiple power programs. Dijon Sayre is a very fast guy from Utah. How do you feel about the running back room, and just how are you going to try to balance all the carries between Seth, Dominic, Dijon, and also Monty coming back as well? Well,
we already showed last year. We had 2 running backs with 130, 150 carries apiece. We had the 2 leading rushers in the conference coming back. Obviously Washington's gone, but then again, you look at a guy like Washington. Dominic's had more yards, more touchdowns, and higher yards per carry coming out of Oklahoma State and Baylor than Washington had coming out of Buffalo. So I look at that and I go, that's a pretty good replacement. And I'll be honest, that was a tough fight to get him. But I think I think Coach Cobb again did a really good job. I think one of the things that we showed last year, there's only so much tread on a tire, right? And running backs are the exact same thing as a tire, right? So when you talk about trying to play on Sundays, playing the NFL, do you really want 300 carries? Most backs don't. You don't want to handle that load. So if you can get 2 backs in, give them between 125 and 150 carries each, they can be extremely productive. We can win a bunch of football games, and they keep some tread on their tires.
You said David Barker was here to replace. What's the latest with Abraham? At last check.
So everything we're getting. So anybody who graduated in the class of 2019 is ineligible, right? If you graduated in the class of 2020, that's where the kind of Pavia deal falls in, right? So anybody from that class on is getting that extra year. So I know there's a lot of schools that trip 2019 guys, sign 19 guys, and as of right now, my understanding is they're not eligible.
The 105 roster cap.
Yeah.
I know you kind of touched on it earlier, but how are you going about that in these next few months?
Well, scholarship-wise, like I said, we're pretty good. We've got a couple of guys we'll bring in. We're going into spring football with 93 guys. If we were to bring everybody back, plus our new scholarship guys in, plus the guys we promised walk-on opportunities to, which isn't a lot, right? We're over the number. So we get post-spring, you're going to have to cut the number down to 105. That's a tough deal. You know, you wish they were kind of grandfathered in if you were currently on the roster. You know, you hate cutting walk-ons, but at the end of the day, this whole thing's been taken over by money. You know, I mean, it really is a money deal, cost savings deal. So 105 is where we're all going, and we'll make sure we're there by the time we get going.
Yeah, Coach, piggybacking off of one of those points with NIL, how do you feel like money has really affected, you know, especially in this recruiting class, but also how has it affected the program, and what are the challenges that you find with that?
Well, you know, A Mountain Sports, Paul and Luke Smith, Jordan Menegas, they run the collective for us. They've done a phenomenal job. They've improved it so much from the past. We're up from where we were last year now, but I'm sure everybody else is too. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's working the same thing. Did it help us recruit this class? Without it, we would have been dead on the water. So it helped us big time to recruit this class. We got to continue to improve there. It was kind of exciting reading in the paper today, you know, the proposal up at the state legislature of getting $2.5 million per athletic department here at New Mexico State and at UNM. I think if that happens, I think that's good foresight. I mean, I think that's, you know, looking, you know, into the future of college athletics and realizing investing in it is huge. So, you know, if that happens, I think that's going to be a big deal for both universities moving forward, football, basketball, and obviously the other sports. So it's here. I mean, it really is here. And again, it's one of those deals where I don't think you need more than everybody else, but you don't want to have a lot less than everybody else. At the end of the day, are we going to go ahead and compete with, you know, Pete in Kentucky? You know, no, we're not. It just is what it is. We're not trying to, you know. But if you can do a little bit better and keep a guy like Seth McGowan around, you know, and, you know, doing less, but still doing a little bit more, you know, on our end, that's huge. So I think, you know, having the ability to go compete in Conference USA, compete against Mountain West teams, compete against American Conference teams, you know, NIL-wise, if you can do that. And the one thing we have that a lot of schools don't is we actually have a home atmosphere. Like, we put people in our stands. We pack our stands. We got our Aggie walk. People are into it. We're in a real college town. You know, we got 120,000 people. It's not the hustle and bustle of 800,000, a million people. So I think with the town, the way people rally around, you know, college football and college basketball around here, I think you add the NIL into it, I think we're sitting in a pretty good spot.
And then just looking at the school from the university level, obviously have a new president coming in. You also have you had an athletic director recently fired. How do you feel like all that affects you and affect the upcoming season?
Well, I mean, change is always, you know, one of those deals where you look at it and go like, oh, wow, you know, you didn't see it coming, you know, and it did. I actually just got off the phone with our president, President Ferme, just a minute ago. You know, we talked about a couple of logistical things. I know he's working hard, and anytime you come into a new role, you know, you're kind of drinking out of a fire hose. There's a lot of things coming at you and stuff, but he's settling down. You know, obviously, I think Mario did, you know, again, from my perspective, I thought he did a lot of really good things here, so really appreciate that. Worked with Amber Burge for a long time, you know, she was on, you know, Mario's team. She's a really knowledgeable person. She's been working in the NIL space for well over 5 years, way back to when she was at Louisiana Tech. So she's really knowledgeable of it, and obviously knowledgeable of, you know, how to get the entire program rolling. She's seen it the last bunch of years. She's seen the growth. I mean, the new building, you see that going up right behind us, moving in there in July. A lot of exciting things. So again, I'm comfortable with the people that we have ahead of us. You know, appreciative of the people that are no longer here right now. And again, it's one of those deals. I mean, I think you guys know me. I'm not going to get rattled. You just sit down in your chair and you do your job and you work hard. Again, we have a lot of really good people here, and everybody from, you know, our new president to, you know, to our athletic director, Amber Burge, everybody in the building, everybody wants us to be successful, and everyone's doing everything they can to help us be that.
And then finally on Zayden Davis, what are some of the aspects do you like of his game, and how much fun is it to be able to bring a local kid to New Mexico State?
It's huge. I mean, anytime, you know, you can find a local guy to bring on in to be an impact guy, it's a big deal. You know, the one thing about him is, I mean, he's a 300-plus pound bench presser. You know, he's right around a 500-pound squatter. You know, I mean, he's just under 6'2". He'll easily be that. You can tell just by, you know, looking at his body type. He's a guy who I think is going to really grow into a great football player. And again, it's good having a local guy.
How do you guys try to, we brought up NIL a lot so far, so how do you guys try to maybe allocate resources towards that and make sure people are taken care of, while also making sure you have guys that want to be here and believe in you and just believe in the culture that you're trying
We don't change what you're doing. I mean, that's part of the recruiting process, but it's not part of the cultural process. And once you're in the building and once we start practicing, none of that stuff matters. You don't get treated different because of what you get NIL or what you don't get NIL or things like that. I mean, it's my job to be, you know, to set a culture, but I don't do it by myself. I do it with myself, assistant coaches, strength coaches, I mean, everybody who works in the office. You know, and at the end of the day, remember, this is fun. You know what I'm saying? You know, we're playing college football, we're coaching college football, where, I mean, you know, I get to put on a whistle every day and go to practice, and that's my job, right? So it's, obviously there's a lot more to it than that. You know, it's a lot more arduous and, you know, it can be stressful at times, but we try to keep it real around here, and again, once the guys are in the building and, once, everything, all the moving parts start going, it really gets back to football. And that's what we're trying to do you get through the recruiting process and that's great, but as soon as you can get back to the X's and O's, you get back to the football, you get back to keeping the main thing, which is, a little harder to do in this day and age. I think as soon as you get to that, all that stuff doesn't matter anymore.
Tell me about you guys brought in four junior college safeties, and you talked about how that could help you guys out there. Just who are you excited about most there, and what do you feel like that can add and help you guys out in the secondary?
Well, I don't know if I would say there's the guy I'm excited about the most. When I look at those four guys, that when you look at all of them on paper, they're very similar. All 6'1", 6'2", right around 185 to 200 pounds. The one thing that was evident to me last year, kind of looking at it after we had lost, when you look at all the guys we had lost in the secondary and the late recruiting that we did, we didn't really look the way I want us to look. Obviously you've got to, there's always going to be a guy who's a little bit shorter, this and that, but we need to be a longer football team. We need to be a faster football team. So we put a premium on length and speed, right? And I just think that when you look at some of the struggles we had last year late in the game against FIU, you look at some of those big plays we gave up, Western Kentucky and things like, it's like, okay, we need to be better back there, and we are, and every one of those guys we had to win a recruiting battle with, which is exciting. It wasn't like we were recruiting guys, against nobody else. We were in battles and we won those. So, when you look at it and you look at, Cloyd and, Hill Smith and, Aya and Owens and, you look at their backgrounds, all similar, all junior college players, all have multiple years to play. Again, I think we're more athletic and we're longer back there. And, I feel right now looking at this, I feel like our roster's better and all we got to do is be a little bit better.
Coach, with just the freshmen, can you, I'm looking at a few true freshmen on the new signing class. Just
Yep.
Anybody who really sticks out to you, you can pick out position. We spoke about a little bit of them.
Yeah.
And kind of what's also just the key, right? They're true freshmen. So what's kind of key to getting them adjusted, right, to this new culture that, that you're setting, that they're going to obviously get accustomed to?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, there's a huge jump, going from high school to college football, right? Obviously, you get Patterson, who's here right now, along with Heklinski, right? So they're going to get a jump start on it because they're here right now. They're going to go through spring football. When the rest of the freshmen show up in June, they'll already be settled. They'll have lived in Las Cruces. They'll know what it's like going to college classes. The rest of the guys, and yeah, it's culture, they'll get that, but they're also getting the first time they've been away from mom's cooking. It'll be the first time that, they're going to a different church. It'll be the first time that, they've literally slept in, under a different roof their entire lives, right? So that, I can go back and remember the first time I did it, and there was some sad days, some happy days, and, so you got to help them through that process. So when they get here in June, their families will all be coming in, moving them in, and that's all around the country. That part of it, that'll never change, and then once they get a little acclimated, by the time you get into August camp, that's when they'll really start to understand the culture. But, one of the deals is, nowadays is that's why, back in the day when you didn't have the portal, it was a one-time transfer, you knew you were going to have some older guys for a couple of years, so you'd bring these freshmen in, you'd redshirt the majority of them, and then you work them the way up. The hard thing is now when you bring all these young guys, right, are they physically ready to get in a fight with a grown man? Some guys are, most are not. So that's the scary thing. When you bring in a whole bunch of high school kids, are you really going to line up on the defensive line against a guy who's a 3-year starter coming back as an offensive lineman? Are you really going to be, an inside linebacker and, and be able to tackle Seth McGowan? Some guys will, and there's very few. Most of those guys have kind of been picked off. So I think we did a good job of balancing some young guys and some new guys. But yeah, no, there'll be some acclimatization. You look at these guys as freshmen, and a guy like Zayden Davis, you'd love to be able to grow him into it. Drake Williams, same thing. Raylan Carter, he'll be interesting. Kid from Fort Worth Southwest High School. He's on the basketball team. He actually runs 100 in track, and he's a D lineman at 278 pounds. Pretty fast. What's your fastest 100? He's 11.8. All right, not bad for D lineman, right? Patterson, he looks like he can play right away. Brody Malone will probably play, right away. The 3 linemen, you'd love to be able to redshirt those guys and grow those guys up. We'll see if we're able to do that, and obviously the specialists will play right away. So based on position kind of dictates whether or not, you're a now guy or you're a future guy.
And Coach, reflecting on your first season, what were some of the biggest positives, some of the biggest challenges? What did you take away from it?
The biggest positive is the one thing, as we went back and we talked about it, our guys fought their tails off. I think we were under-talented in some specific areas that, that really hurt us. but there's very few times you could ever turn on a game in the beginning of the fourth quarter, and we're not right there. You know, what you saw is when it mattered the most, we weren't fast enough, we weren't athletic enough, we didn't make enough plays in the passing game. You know, in critical mass situations, we kind of struggled, you know, at certain times. But they're specific. Like, I don't look and see this huge chasm that we have to overcome. I mean, the last game of the season, we did everything we could to lose the game. I've never been in a game where we gained 300 yards more than the other team and lost the game, right? I mean, there are some games we didn't gain 300 yards, right? So when I look at that, I go like, okay, we just got to tighten up the screws, and we need to add a little bit more talent. We got to be more efficient with the quarterback spot. You know, we cannot give so many explosives up on defense. You know, and if we can just tighten some of those things down, some of those games where you look at where they're so tight there in the fourth quarter in critical situations, can we be better at those moments? So if we can, I think we have a whole different season on our hands.
David Barker, he's a guy that's going to come in and replace Montano. He was obviously really good for you guys last year with a really strong
Yeah.
run. Tell me about not only how you feel like he's going to replace Montano, but also how you guys went about recruiting a guy from another country in Australia.
Well, it's just like Dean last year. We brought in a punter from the same, you know, kicking academy in Australia, you know, and it's and you know, and he's going to be a really good punter. I mean, we're excited about him, you know, and now, you know, bringing, you know, this young man in. The biggest thing for us is, I mean, we've already watched him out there. He can boom the ball as far as leg strength and height and all that stuff. Now, when you're doing it in front of a crowd and it matters the most, right? All right, how are you going to handle that? That's the biggest thing for me with kickers, you know, over the years is, you know, Montani was so great because he was so so chill and so, you know, whatever, you know, he'd go out there no matter what the situation, and he wasn't worried one bit about it, you know. He's on the sidelines cracking jokes before he's got to make a kick, you know, but it helps him, you know. Can you have that cool demeanor in a critical situation, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we're going to find out with him real quick. So we're hoping he's a, you know, replacement. We're also hoping Montano gets that extra year, right? It'd be great to have a little competition right there, but we'll see what ends up happening.
You guys got 5 receivers listed here. After the UTEP game, you mentioned that you wanted to bring in some more receivers, but also mentioned you guys wanted dogs at receiver.
Yeah.
And so, of these 5 guys, do you feel like you have dogs now? And what does that really look like?
Every one of these guys, you turn on film, and there's video evidence of them being just that, you know. You know, we need guys who are going to go fight for the 50-50 balls. We need guys who are going to go, you know, you're going to be able to get off a press and be able to take the top off and be able to stretch the football field. We know we're going to be able to run the ball. We have a great back coming back. We have great backs coming in. Where we really struggled last year is we didn't put enough pressure on defenses, and they loaded boxes on us, right? If we can go ahead and make them cover the field horizontally, right, and have to play as true, I think we can cause some people some problems. You know, again, on paper, that's what I'm saying right now. We'll see, right? We'll wait till the Jimmies and Joes actually get out there. But this is a good group. I mean, these are guys that have done it before. You got King, who's done it at Wyoming. You've seen it. So the rest of these guys, you know, junior college, obviously competitive high schools that they played at. These are guys that I really think are going to be a big, you know, difference makers.
Any more? Cool. Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Is that better than